Hello everybody, it's your boy Star Guy. I'm back from another video. And this is my Rwby What If series part 3. So before I get into the story, I just want to address two things. Number one, my first video I stated that Rwby doesn't really have a reason to fight. See, this does because he wants to, because that's who she is. But in my second video, I actually gave her a reason. And so I'm actually going to stick with the reason I gave her. So yeah, essentially, if you're a jerk to her siblings, or anyone in general, so you use it as an excuse to beat you up severely. Like, it's crazy. She will beat you to a level where it will be physically impossible for you, where it will be mentally impossible for you to forget the beating. Like, you'll have nightmares. That's how bad she is, bro. A whole menace. But yeah, so use that as an excuse to be on your ass. That's her. But. So also fight a person that's looking pretty strong just because it'll be fun for her to test her limits. And so what happens is Yang, Rwby, and actually go around and end up fighting a lot of people, like hunters, huntresses, shady people, like whoever looked strong enough, Rwby will fight. And Yang, of course, being a fighter herself, she will also jump in. Because that's also a good reason for her to fight as well. Right? And they've been doing this for so long, Yang, and Rwby, they've been doing this for so long that they actually have a whole, what's this called? That they actually are pretty well known. Yeah, I'm gonna stick with that. They're pretty well known for what they do. Pretty well known, and people are actually scared of them. Right? They're fucking terrified, right? That's because of two things. Number one, that's how savagely Rwby is. Like her level of punishment towards an individual and the amount of punishment she can take is so crazy that you'll have fully grown men who are cold-hearted killers and or businessmen of the illegal kind. You'll have those types of people upon hearing her name or see her walk into their direction, they will just turn and bolt the other way. If not, forsaking in their fucking boots. That's how crazy things are. And with Yang, she's so physically strong that with one punch, she can crack bones, whether you have aura or not. That's how strong she is. With or without aura, she's breaking you. And while that doesn't really happen all the time, it happens so much that to the point where she almost never really gets a good fight in because she's just that strong, right? If she lets Rwby go first, by the time it's her turn, the person that Rwby was fighting isn't even capable of fighting no more. Like the homies half passed out, blood all over the place, right? Left eye swollen, leg twisted. Like, it's ridiculous, right? And if Yang goes first, her very first punch essentially ends the fight. 9 times out of 10. You know, she just got. See, it's crazy. That's like her strength level is crazy. And with like I said before, he's chill, but usually since him and sisters are so close, wherever they go, he goes. And so while he stays back and let them handle stuff, when it comes to time that he might need to jump in, he'll do it. And with one touch, one touch is all it takes for a fully grown man to crumble to the floor, screaming their heads off. Right? So that's potentially another KO. So Yang's practically one punch or one kick move, and then you have who with one touch paralyzes the person with pain. Right? And then you have Rwby, who just beat somebody so bad that they're practically close to death. Right? And since that happens more than once, and they're actually pretty well known throughout the city, people do their very best to avoid them. And if they can't avoid them, they ask them to let them pray and call their families to tell them they love them. Like that. That's how serious it is. These niggas ask for a moment to pray and call their wives or husbands to let them know that they love them in case they don't make it home that night. That's what happens, right? And this actually leads to a particular person to have their eye on them, right? I'm not going to say who because it's too early into the story to get the details about that. But that's what happens, right? So all that said and done, you'll have Rwby, Yang, walking through the neighborhood, trying to figure out what they want to eat. And while they're talking about it, Yang suddenly gets an idea, right? She decides to take them to a place that's both a club and a restaurant, right? And while Rwby and are underage, all three of them actually have fake IDs. And so that alone makes it pretty easy to sneak into almost any club and or place they want. Because these IDs are so top tier and look so legitimate that unless you're a person that deals with that type of business in the first place, you will not be able to tell. That's how good they are. It's crazy. And they managed to And they managed to get that from doing a few favors here and there and sparing a person or two, But yeah. And so with that in mind, they decided to go there. So now we fast forward to a certain popular club in the city. It's popular. A lot of people go there. It's a fun place to hang out. There's drinks, there's food, there's dancing. It's a good club. It's a good club. So we have the owner of said club, Junior, being behind the bar and just doing his job, handing out drinks and stuff. And so while all that's happening, he noticed. He takes the time to just look around for a minute, and make sure everything's okay. And then as he does this, he noticed 3 people walking to the bar. I mean, his club. Right? Well, I can just say bar or club. It doesn't really matter. But he sees 3 people walk in. And from where he stood, he couldn't exactly see their faces because it was too far. but he saw the hair color. And that was enough for him to figure out who it was. Right? And because of that, he wasn't really looking forward to have them there. Because he knows that the Summer siblings are trouble. Wherever they are, chaos follows suit in some way, shape, or in some way, shape, or form. Right? So knowing this, he thinks about how he wants to handle the situation. Because simply asking them to leave is not a good idea. Because he tried it before and then never really worked out. So much so they actually had to hire 2 new bodyguards, because the last ones he had ended up retiring early for reasons that are, let's just say, it wasn't really looking good for them in the future, especially if they have kids or any sort. But with that said, so he knows that that's a bad idea, right? He can't just kick him out. So he decides to just let him be and hope that nobody will cause any trouble, right? That's the only thing he can do, really. So that's what he does. And at first, everything's looking pretty alright, right? Time passed. There's no problems, right? So, after ordering and eating her food, Rwby says he has to go to the bathroom, right? And so, because of that, Rwby gets up and she walks towards the bathroom, right? Haven't been there before, she memorized where it was. So she walks towards the bathroom, and as she walks, she actually ends up bumping into somebody. However, since it was like music, dancing, anything like that, she didn't notice because she wasn't really paying attention. She was trying to go to the bathroom, so all she was focused on was getting to point A to point B. That was it, nothing else. Right? So, she bumps into the person, and after that, she kept walking, and the person she bumped into was actually one of New Junior's new bodyguards, a set of twins, right? So, one twin, the one twin she bumped into, she was not happy about that. Not happy whatsoever. So what happened was, he ended up following Rwby into the bathroom, right? And Rwby herself, she goes in the bathroom, she does her business, right? And she gets out the stall and she goes to wash her hands. And so, as she's washing her hands, right, she looks up, right? Just to look at herself in the mirror. She looks up, to make sure she doesn't have any food on her face or anything. So she looks up and she sees a person, a girl, standing right behind her, right? And the girl says, upon making eye contact, the girl says, "Well, isn't there something you want to say to me?" And Rwby, she looked pretty confused, right? Because, again, she doesn't know that she bumped into the girl. She wasn't paying attention. And so she was like, no, right? And the twin, instead of explaining, snapped, because her first night on the job, she ended up having to deal with a lot of bad customers, getting a stern talking to from Junior, and having her sister mock her and make fun of her because of one mistake she did. So she was just in a bad mood already. And so upon hearing what Rwby said, she just snapped. And what she did was, she grabs Rwby and just slams her head against the mirror. Full force. Cracking it on contact, right? And Rwby, of course, was caught off guard by this, right? So after the twin does this, she sneers, and she was like, "Next time, watch where you're going," right? And so she lets go of Rwby's head, and she turns, thinking that it was all over, that she made a point, right? And so she turns, Before she can make a step towards the exit, she felt somebody grab her shoulder. And so she looks back and just to see Rwby, with butter over her face, smile at her. Right? And that smile sent shivers down her spine. Right? And while smiling, Rwby only said one thing and one thing only. My turn. Right? So fast forward, Yang is getting pretty worried because he hasn't seen Rwby in about like 3 minutes. Usually it doesn't really take that long to go to the bathroom. So he decides to check because he has a bad feeling about this. So she decides to check out and make sure her sister's okay. So she gets up, tells that she'll be right back and leaves, right? Nods, He nods, chilling, drinking a drink, some alcohol, That's what he does. I mean, come on, Rwby was doing it too, Yang's not really a good role model. I'm not gonna lie, she's not really a perfect role model. I mean, that wasn't obvious before. I'm just gonna state it now. She's not really the type of role model I used to look up to, because she'll get you in trouble. That's what happens here. Well, not here, but it happened. That's what happens in the series. This the only reason they got so bad in the first place is because Yang's lack of being a proper big sister and making sure her siblings stay out of trouble. Instead of doing that, she gets them into trouble. The exact opposite of what Yang would have done in canon. But yeah. So she goes over to the bathroom and she looks. Right? No, she goes to the bathroom and she opens the door. As she opens the door, all she sees is blood. There was blood everywhere. I'm talking about everywhere. The ceilings, the floors. It was ridiculous. Well, not the ceilings, but I'm just going to say there's blood over the floor, right? There's a lot of blood. And she sees this. And she looks over and she sees Rwby punching a girl. And she's punching her over and over and over again, right? She has one hand on her neck. And the other hand is just punching her, right? And every punch she makes, she counts. Sorry about that. I feel like outside helps me focus better. But yeah, I'm doing this type of thing anyways. But yeah, with every punch she makes, she counts. So she was like 10, 12, 13, 14, 15, right? She was counting. And the girl that she was holding was practically beaten into unconsciousness, right? She was out cold, bro. She was not conscious. She was not among the conscious realm of awareness. She was gone. Seeing this, they decides to step in before Rwby accidentally kills the girl, because she knows that when Rwby does this type of thing, she almost loses it completely, right? Her lust for fighting, for violence, gets so strong that she ends up completely blacking out. And so Yang steps in and she grabs Rwby and she holds her. And Yang, being practically the strongest out of all her siblings, this was easy for her, despite Rwby struggling. But she holds Rwby. She holds Rwby there, telling her to calm down. And Yang and Rwby, of course, like I said, struggles. But after a minute or two, she stops You know, see, breathes in and out heavily, you know. Trying her best to calm down because she realizes that she's doing a bit much. She's doing a lot right now. She gotta calm down. So that's what she does. She takes a few deep breaths. She pulls herself together. Or at least tries to. But while this is happening, the door opens. And the girl that looks very similar to the one that Rwby beats up walks into the bathroom. And she freezes upon seeing her sister on the floor with blood covering her face, with Yang holding Rwby, who if Yang holding Rwby, while Rwby has blood covering her face, droplets of blood, and her fist also being covered in blood. Right? So it does not look good. Right? So that's what happens. And then the sighs. She's like, well, I see how this is gonna be. Right? Because she was just the one time she actually tried to have a good night, it just ends badly, right? Because she was just trying to eat and chill. She wasn't really trying to make anything a big deal, because she just wanted to relax. But realizing that wasn't going to happen, you know, because even though Yang likes to fight, she also likes to relax and every once in a while, and this was her time to relax. But unfortunately, it's not the case. So then it's just like, well, it's what it is. And so she lets Rwby go. And Rwby immediately pounces on the girl. Like, the girl didn't even have a chance to fight back before Rwby's smashing her head in. No, before Rwby's banging her head against the floor, right? This wasn't this like it was like, bro. This was no regular fight. It was like she was actually trying to kill the girl. Like, she was beating her head off the floor. You know, when that was, and then when that wasn't enough, she started punching the girl over and over again. She's swinging on her. She's headbutting her. She's kicking her. She's doing almost everything, right? She's doing so much things. She's actually trying to kill the girl, right? But she's going all out, right? Because at this point, why not? Right? And so, what happens is, Rwby, fast forward 5 minutes later, and you have Yang and Rwby walk out of the girl's bathroom, you know, having cleaned themselves up, you know, and they walk out, acting like nothing happened, right? And as they do this, they look to see what do you think? Okay. So they walk out like nothing happened, you know, and they quickly gather up, you know, who's almost passed out because he drunk too much. But they quickly gather him up. Yang swings him over her shoulder, and they walk out, right? They just walk out, right? Because they weren't trying to cut the case, right? So they walk out of the club, and Junior, seeing this, sighed in relief, right? Thinking that everything turned out all right. Fast forward about an hour and a half later, he notices that the twins were gone. And so he started looking for them, right? So he looks until he finally decides to look into the girl's bathroom, right? before that, he decides to actually send one of his females, one of his female employee to go in there and check for him in case someone was in there, right? Because he does not want to catch a case of sexual assault or harassment of any kind. So he sends one of his female employees to go in there, and of course, the girl goes in there, and what she sees is the twins bloodied and looked to be on the verge of death. Both of them. Right? They were alive. But they looked to be practically knocking on death's door. Right? They look like, how to explain this? They were alive, but that's barely. Like, they look close to death. I'm say that. So, of course, she screams. You know, Junior busts in, sees what she's screaming about. You know, his eyes go wide. You know, and he quickly does what he can to help both of them. And Junior's not stupid, so he knows who does it, who did it. He knows, right? He knows what could have done this. He knows who could be this ruthless when it comes to fighting. So, when it comes to fighting of this nature. So he knows who did it. So, at this point, he's pissed because this wasn't the first time it happened. So, he decides to take matters into his own hands. Right? So, before we get into any of that, we have to cut back to Yang and the group. So they managed to make it all the way home. And, you know, they're okay. Yuno woke up. He's a bit sluggish, a bit drunk, but he's doing fine, you know. So they arrive in their old apartment. And they walk in. Right? And they're expecting anything to be alright, to see the father pass down the couch. You know, from working too hard, because he did manage to quit drinking a bit. Some days he'll stop, some days he'll drink like he did before. You know, but he's trying to stop. It's very difficult due to the pain in his heart, but yeah. So they're expecting to see him passed out on the couch due to drinking, or just be in his room asleep from working almost all day. Either one or two scenarios. So they walk in, and instead of seeing what they expected to see, they see Tai Lung. I'm pretty sure that's his name. They see their father dead.